Hey guys, how are you? I'm Bruna. I'm your Turkish series summary channel. And if you like this type of content, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to our channel if not subscribed. I did this for the video.
The episode begins with Ira in her bedroom while her daughter Sarah is still asleep. Hira strokes the girl's hair, remembering the times when Run took care of Sarah. After some time, Sarah ropes and "Good morning, mother," bluntly asks where Uncle Orun is and explains that he returned to the house as soon as she fell asleep. Then he plays, "Let's see what you saw in your dreams, sleepyhead." Sarah replies, "I dreamed of my father last night. He was holding me in his lap and he told me, 'Don't worry about me, everything will be fine.'" These words, however, were spoken by Oru while Sarah slept. Sarah then asks to visit Uncle Oru but will explain that they cannot go to his house whenever they want, as he is too busy. Meanwhile, in the living room of the mansion, FIFA is lying in an armchair. Rum enters the room and asks how she is. FIFA, with a serious countenance, replies that he is not well. Soon after, Sultan brings her water and medicine. FIFA had fallen down the stairs the night before, injuring only his foot. He hears and Sultan ask him to take better care of his mother and follow the doctor's instructions before leaving. FIFA, however, tells Rum, "Don't worry about me, worry about yourself and control yourself." Confused or a question, what does she mean to what Afif answers? That if he'd been where he was supposed to be, the accident wouldn't have happened. When Run questions, she states that he should not be in the room. Will say at that time, angry or a rebound, "I know very well what to do, this is none of your business," and withdraws from the environment. Suta enters the mansion room and asks to be summoned. Outside the house, Aziz is sitting lost in thoughts about the moment he fainted and he tried to revive her, without success. He remembers asking for Susan's help to take care of her. Returning to the present, Aziz is interrupted by the arrival of Susan, who warns him that breakfast is ready. Concerned, Aziz asks about Live if her condition is serious, as they cannot take her to the hospital because Gürbüz believes she is dead. Susan reassures me that Lee will be fine. And you'll be taken care of at home. Then he insists that Ziz go for coffee. He enters the house while he go lying in bed. Opening her eyes after waking up, she remembers the moment Aziz approached, asked her to look into her eyes and then lost consciousness. Desperate, Elif realizes that she is without the jab, quickly covers her head. Susan arrives and, relieved, says, "Thank God you're awake." Elif asks what happened, stating that he doesn't remember anything. Susan explains that he fainted and slept soundly, as if he hadn't rested in decades. Elir then questions if Susan took off her handkerchief. Susan confirms, saying she thought she would be more comfortable without him. Relieved to learn that it wasn't Aziz who removed it, Elif sighs. Susan suggests that she come down to eat, but Elif refuses, saying she is not hungry. Without insisting, Susan leaves the room, letting him go alone. Meanwhile, Ira entered the room where Fif was.
The Fif asked the IRA, "How are you?" and Sarah has recovered a little. Ira replied that both she and Sarah were doing a little better. The Fif commented, "Of course you will improve, after all the bad is taking care of you." The Fif, with a light tone, added that Hiraya, after your husband died, you chose the bad as the father of your daughter. I knew what his intention was from the beginning.
Ira was furious at Afif's words. She replied, "I don't need another husband and my daughter doesn't need another father. Sarah does not especially need someone who did not even have mercy on her own son and ordered his death." Afif tried to continue, but Will interrupted, "You don't need to worry about that. I have no interest in your son and I would never entrust my daughter to him." Then Ira left the room, leaving Fif alone to speak. Pira went into the garden thinking to herself, "My God, what are you accusing me of? All I want is to keep my distance from Orun, who once told me to abort the child I was carrying in my womb. I can't expect anything from a man like that. What matters to me now is Sarah, and it is for her that I am enduring all this." Meanwhile, he paced back and forth in Aziz's room. Looking at his watch, he realized it was time for Ari to take his medicine. However, she hesitated to leave as she did not want to meet Aziz. Still worried Susan or Aziz might forget to give her the medicine, he decided to leave the room. Elif walked cautiously through the house trying to avoid Aziz, but the plan failed. She found him in the living room of the mansion. Aziz asked, "What are you doing?"
Elif replied, "I was going to give you the medicine, Arif." Aziz retorted, "You can't just walk around without eating and pass out in the corners. Go eat something right now." Elif, with his head down, said he was not hungry, but Aziz insisted anyway. "Like something," Aziz ordered. "Look at me." But Elif kept his head down. He asked again, "Elif, look at me."
Reluctantly she raised her head and Aziz said, "Eat something, I need you to take care of my father." Without answering, Elif said, "I'll see Mr. Ari's medicine," come out quickly and leave Aziz standing near the stairs. Meanwhile, Rum and Sarah were in the garden, riding bicycles while Sarah pedaled. Rum followed closely, always saying words, encouraging and conveying confidence. After a while Ira came into the garden and watched them from a corner. She remembered the moment the Rum taught her how to ride a bike and the emotional memories made her cry. Rum, on the other hand, was also reliving the same moment, but soon he left his thoughts and went back to talking to Sarah. Sarah asked, "If I ride a bike a lot, will I learn to ride fast?" The Rum replied, "Of course. You're determined, you'll make it." As Sarah was tired, she stopped to rest. At that moment Ron noticed Ira's presence and went up to her, noticing that she looked uncomfortable, asked, "Are you okay?" Ira, remembering Afif's words, did not want to deal with him and replied, "I have things to do." She entered the house, leaving some sad with her indifference. As Susan says goodbye to Aziz to go to the funeral of a deceased uncle, she asks Elif to prepare vegetable soup for her Arif and clean the kitchen cabinets and the windows of the house. His Arif questions Aziz why he does not accompany Susan and Aziz replies that he will stay to take care of him. Elif tells Aziz that if he wants to go, he can go quietly, as she will take care of his Ariva. Aziz replies, "Seriously, you are so thoughtful." Elif in turn says, "I don't count anymore, do I? Then I can stay here with him." Aziz reply, "And remember, if I don't care about your opinion, don't say anything less than they ask." Elif goes to enter the house, but feels a pain in her head. Ziz notices that she is not well and asks if she is okay. Elif says yes and enters with his Arif. Meanwhile, Ira is in her room reflecting. Sarah feels safe next to Sam. This rapprochement between them is not a positive thing. After some time Ru arrives and talks to Ira, explaining that Sarah wants to live a true camping experience. He asks permission to take Sarah to the camp, assuring that there will be no security issues and that it will be a good experience for her. Will, however, deny immediately or badly. He insists, stating that he wants to do this to cheer Sarah up after difficult days, but the change of posture will tell or surprise. The distance will say in relation to or not is a result of Afif's words. Meanwhile, Elif is in the kitchen preparing soup. When she hears Ziz talking on the mobile phone, she freezes for a few moments. Ziz then enters the kitchen and observes Elif, who is visibly embarrassed by his stare. Ziz comments that she is still pale and Elif says she is fine, but Ziz insists, saying that she knows her face well and notices that her hands are shaking. Elif denies it again, "You're wrong, I'm fine." Aziz, "So," he says, "I don't want you to keep fainting. Tell me. You're sick." Life reaffirms that it is okay. Aziz asks her to look him in the eye and say she's okay, but Elif, embarrassed, avoids eye contact. She finally responds, "I'm fine, I don't seem to be." Aziz insists, "You're whiter than paper. Don't worry about anything, just tell me if you're sick." Life responds firmly that it is fine. Aziz gives up insisting and leaves the kitchen, leaving Elif relieved, though visibly affected by his presence. In parallel, Lee's father suffers a heart attack believing his daughter is dead, which is not true. Taken to the hospital, the doctor informs him that his health is stable, but recommends medication and rest. A lone man reflects, "My dear alive, my jasmine perfume, forgive me for failing to protect you, but don't worry, I will avenge your death." While Sarah was playing with her bicycle in the garden, gardener Rasid approached her. In a casual tone, Rasid asked, "Haven't you packed your backpack for camp yet?" He commented that he overheard Rum talking on the phone about the idea. Sarah was elated at the possibility of going camping. Without wasting any time, she ran to her room and looked for Ira. Anxiously, Sarah told her mother that Uncle Ogum would take her to the camp. Ira tried to stay calm and wondered in his mind what the run's intention was with this. Then he asked Sarah to keep it in his room and went to enjoy the rum. The rum was in his office. On the phone, with Era, he informed that everything was ready for the camp and that the security team was available. However, Rum immediately ordered him to cancel all preparations, as it would not allow him to go to the camp. As soon as he hung up, Ira entered the mansion room with an irritated expression. She bluntly asked why he had told Sarah they were going camping. The people replied coldly that they had not given their permission for this trip. Ira then stated that although he had helped a lot during the process, the decisions about her daughter were up to her. People were left without reaction, watching. Will leave the room before he could respond.
As soon as she left or was perplexed by the sudden changes in mood, she will tell about him. Meanwhile, he went to the mansion room to bring a bowl of soup to Lord Ari, who was resting. Aziz was in the room and was delighted to see her enter. Elif gave him a quick smile, then turned his attention to his father.
Aziz, who seemed lost in his thoughts, quickly realized that Elif was already beside Arif, feeding him soup while Elif carried out his task. She thought to herself, why he keeps looking at me like that? What a situation! His discomfort increased when Ari, in a playful tone, asked his son to look into Aliv's eyes and see what a good person she was. Elir, lacking the courage to face him, kept his eyes fixed on the plate, wishing it would be over soon. Aziz, intrigued, questioned his father about the reason for such a request. Arif insisted, saying only, "Look at my son, and you'll see for yourself." Reluctantly, but curious, Aziz asked Elis to raise her head. She obeyed, visibly uncomfortable, as he sharpened for a few seconds before she looked away again. Trying to change the subject, Elif commented that the soup was getting cold, turning her attention to the Lord. Arif, by an oversight, almost knocked over the tray, but Aziz, who kept his eyes on it, was quick and caught it before it fell. Elif sat blankly silent as Aziz noticed her trembling. He suggested that she go upstairs to rest, worried about her condition, although the real reason was the nervousness caused by his presence. He refused, insisting that he still needed to finish feeding Arif, but Aziz was firm and said he would take on the task without argument. He hurried out of the mansion room, while Arif, who had noticed the mood between the two, smiled discreetly. Upon reaching the room, he threw himself on the bed, muttering to himself, "What is happening to me? I need to get out of here, sir. Show me a solution." Determined, Elif decided not to leave the room until Susan returned to the house and lay down to try to rest. Meanwhile, Ira also returned to her room, still reflecting on the conversation with Rum.
Sarah told Iraq they should start packing for camp. As Ira tried to explain that they weren't going camping, the bell rang for the pedagogue. Betu entered the room. Betu arrived for Sarah's therapy session. Ira left the room so Betu and Sarah could be alone in the room. Meanwhile, Ellie fell asleep and Aziz went to check on her. Aziz knocked on the door, but got no answer, so he decided to go into the room. He approached the bed where Livia was sleeping and stood for a few minutes watching her sleep. Then he shook her to see if she was just asleep or passed out. Ellis got scared and asked, "What are you doing?" Aziz replied, "Just wanted to make sure you were okay," and commented that soon Susan would return home.
Meanwhile, Ira waited outside the room until Sarah's therapy session was over. Time has passed. Betu went out to talk to Ira, who was waiting at the door. Ira asked Betu how the session went. Betu replied that Sarah was progressing well compared to the previous sessions. Betu explained to Iraq. Sarah now talked openly with her and shared her problems. Petu added that the bond created between Sarah and Oru was being very positive for the girl. She suggested to Ira, "Don't let past experiences with rum disturb you now, because it could harm Sarah." Petu went on to say that Sarah had told her about the camp and that she was very excited that it was her first time. Ira explained that she was facing difficulties because she considered there was the wrong person for Sarah to connect with and that therefore she needed to impose limits on her daughter. Beto replied, "I understand you, but you need to do what's best for Sarah." And then said goodbye. Ira entered the room while Sarah played with her teddy bear. Sarah was talking to the teddy bear, saying, "Uncle Ogun is going to take us camping because Uncle Gardner told me. I'm so happy to be camping for the first time." Unseen, Ira left the room and sat on a bench outside, apprehensive and unsure of what to do. Meanwhile, Aliva was in the kitchen making tea. In thought, she thanked God for Susan's return, believing that the nightmare was near the end. Ellis finished preparing the tea and went to the room of the mansion where she planned to serve it to Zizirif. When he got there, he heard Aziz talking on the phone with Susan. Susan explained that she would not return home that day because her aunt had taken ill at the funeral and had to be taken to the hospital. She told Aziz that the elderly lady would be hospitalized for 2 days and that she would stay as a companion at the hospital. He was sad because he did not want to remain alone in the house with Aziz. Meanwhile, Ira stood outside the room where she lived with Sarah and thought to herself that Run hadn't talked to Sarah about camping. She considered going to the Run to apologize. Meanwhile, the maid B prepared a cake for Sarah and brought the tray to Ira. B commented to Ira, "You look very sad and thoughtful. You're hurting yourself like this because Sarah needs you." Ira responded to Abi by saying that she was in a difficult situation and did not know what to decide. Bai then advised, saying that being a mother requires sacrifice at that moment, or entered the room of the EB mansion with the cake tray. He went to the room where Sarah was Run. He directed his anger that they needed to talk because she had misunderstood him. Ira then replied, "Yes, I misunderstood. If your camping offer still stands, we can camp together for Sarah's sake."
And if you like this video, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to our channel if you are not already subscribed. Thanks for watching until the next video.